Everybody and their mother has a podcast. So why am I starting a new one? There are several different reasons why I'm starting a new podcast. One reason is I enjoy making YouTube videos, but when I make solo commentary videos for YouTube, it's very labor intensive and time consuming. You would think all I have to do is turn on the camera, say whatever's on my mind, and that's it. But it's more complicated than that. One of my strong suits is not speaking off the top of my head and sounding coherent. Like a lot of writers, actors, and other creators who work in film and theater, I need a script to stay on track. It takes me a relatively long time to write scripts for my YouTube videos because I want to make sure everything flows and will be easily understandable for you, the viewer. Also, I'm a very introspective person, and it takes me a while to process my thoughts. So I tend to speak with a lot of long pauses and filler words. So therefore, it's a long, tedious process of editing when I'm making solo YouTube commentary videos to edit out all the ums and ahs and you knows because I just tend to speak with a lot of filler words while I'm processing my thoughts. On the other hand, when I'm speaking with someone or doing an interview, conversation flows more easily. Now, don't get me wrong, I still have to work on not using as many filler words when I'm speaking to someone. There was a recent interview I did where when I watched it back, I was like, God, how many different times did I say you know? But generally speaking, conversation and my thoughts just tend to flow more easily when I'm speaking with someone rather than speaking to a camera by myself, even if I've scripted it, because I don't use a teleprompter. I basically memorize my scripts, and memorizing and reciting your words are two different things. And it's a time consuming thing to make sure that all my words flow out. And sometimes I stumble over my words when I'm trying to remember what I wrote. And it's just a long process. Also, when I'm speaking with someone or interviewing someone, I don't feel as compelled to have to drop in B-roll or photos illustrating what I'm talking about because when you're having a conversation with someone, it's just more engaging than someone speaking by themselves to a camera, unless you're just one of the world's most charismatic performers or most engaging speakers. It's just easier when you're having a conversation to let the conversation stand on its own rather than having to insert a lot of graphics or visuals to illustrate the point I'm trying to make when I'm speaking solo on camera. And dropping in photos and B-roll, that can be very time consuming. I try to put like a little motion in the photo so it's not just a static photo. And sometimes I don't put any motion in the photos when I'm doing a solo commentary because trying to get the motion right and make it look professional and not jerky, that's also not one of my strong suits. That's something I have to work on as a filmmaker. Another reason I'm starting an audio podcast is because having an audio podcast, believe it or not, gives you more credibility in trying to get guests. There are services, basically websites that match podcast hosts with guests. And I was surprised to find that when I started trying to book more interviews for this YouTube channel, that when you use these services, they insist on you having an audio podcast that is distributed on a platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. A lot of these services that match podcast hosts with guests will not let you use a YouTube link to your YouTube channel as proof that you have a podcast. For some reason, and I don't know what the rationale is, having an audio podcast gives you more credibility than just having a YouTube channel. So that is another major reason why I'm launching this new podcast. Another reason that I'm launching this new audio podcast is the audio podcasting platform plays to my strengths. I've had a love-hate relationship with my voice since my voice deepened when I was a teenager. A lot of people tell me that I have a broadcaster's voice, so why not use it? Now, of course, I am using my voice on YouTube making these videos, but there's something about when your voice is just kind of isolated in an audio format, it stands out more. So I think having an audio podcast will enable me to use this instrument that I've either been blessed or cursed with, depending on how you look at it, this deep voice. An audio podcast will help me to basically use it more. Another one of my strengths that I've discovered is asking insightful questions and making keen observations that other people may not necessarily think of. I don't know how many times I've been at events over the years and I've asked a question or made a comment, and whether it's at some kind of panel discussion or a conference or some other kind of live event, and someone on the panel or the speaker will comment on how insightful my comment is, or how incisive my question is, and how they maybe never thought of the issue that way. So an audio podcast will enable me to use these insights and observations that I come up with on a more consistent basis, and not only just spout out these insights and observations in solo commentary, but have interesting conversations with people who maybe they have another perspective, or maybe they can bring up an insight or observation that I myself hadn't thought of. So I just would like to use my insights and my observations more consistently, and also engage with other people to see what their reactions are to these ideas that float through my mind. A couple of years ago, I posted an update video on this YouTube channel announcing that I was transitioning from posting videos every week to every other week. Now, to be honest, one of the reasons I did that was to have more time to work on my creative projects, my books, movies, plays, etc. But another reason that I did that, that I transitioned to a bi-weekly posting schedule, is because I wanted to take more time to secure interviews with interesting guests for this YouTube channel rather than just always doing solo commentary. And I just believe that having an audio podcast will kind of force me to step up the efforts to get more guests to interview. And you would be surprised at how much work it takes to get guests that will have substantive things to say that people will find interesting. It takes a lot of legwork, a lot of emailing people and contacting people on different websites and doing a lot of research. So it's not necessarily an easy thing to get guests, especially really good, interesting guests, but I definitely think it's a worthwhile effort for sure. So, yet another reason I'm launching this audio podcast, and this is perhaps maybe I wouldn't say most important, but a very significant reason, is because YouTube is very algorithm driven, meaning that YouTube, from what I understand, tends to favor content creators who focus on one topic area. But a lot of YouTube channels that are successful and have a lot of subscribers focus on one thing, like commentary on hot topics or film reviews or advice for filmmakers or advice for authors. They zero in on one topic, and that's how the YouTube algorithm knows how to recommend their videos to viewers. Now, with my channel here, because I have so many different interests, a lot of my YouTube videos have addressed various different topics. I've done travel logs from the trips I've taken. I've done a couple of film reviews. I've done interviews sporadically here and there. And with my new audio podcast, I want to explore a variety of topics, and audio podcasts are a little bit more flexible. They're kind of like what talk shows used to be like back in the day. Like, for example, the Oprah Winfrey Show. On one episode, she would be interviewing a celebrity about their new movie, and then on the next day's episode, she'd be talking about weight loss tips. So there are a number of audio podcasts that cover a broad range of topics that are very successful. And one of those podcasts that covers kind of a broad range of topics unfortunately just ceased making new shows, and that is Questlove Supreme, hosted by a multi-hyphenate like me, although I'm, not comparing myself to Questlove. Amir Questlove Thompson is, of course, a musician, a filmmaker, and an author. And his very popular, long-running, I think it ran for like a decade, podcast, Questlove Supreme, it was primarily focused on music. So he had interviews with a lot of great musicians and a lot of great singers that you don't hear a lot about anymore, and talked about their experiences in the industry. But Questlove and his team of co-hosts would also have interviews with authors and actors and people from other segments of the entertainment industry, not just music. So I like the fact that with an audio podcast, you don't just have to stick to one subject in fear that the algorithm will get confused. So I know you could probably say, well, Questlove is rich and famous, or I'm assuming he's rich, but he's definitely famous, and he can get away with talking about whatever he wants to talk about. Well, there are other podcasts that come to mind that also cover a broad range of topics that are pretty popular. And one that I'm thinking of is Hot Takes and Deep Dives, hosted by Jessica Rothschild. So on one episode, Jessica will be interviewing someone about, let's say, reality television and like the Real Housewives. Then on the next topic, the next episode, Jessica will be interviewing someone about Broadway and some new Broadway show or why a Broadway show didn't make it and it closed early. And then Jessica will have another episode about some aspect of Madonna's career because she's a big Madonna fan. So I plan to have a broad range of topics, primarily sticking to pop culture and entertainment, but occasionally discussing topics of interest that are either somewhat related to pop culture and entertainment, or maybe going off on another subject, but still making it interesting and engaging for the listener. So, in case you're wondering, this YouTube channel isn't going anywhere. I'm not eliminating or doing away with the YouTube channel. I'm just going to expand this YouTube channel to include video versions of the new audio podcast. And I will continue to post content that is exclusive to this YouTube channel beyond and outside of the new audio podcast. And if there are topics you would like me to cover, either on this YouTube channel and or on the audio podcast, please leave your suggestions in the comments. I would love that. So what am I calling my new podcast? It's called Culture Beats, and it will launch in early August. As a journalist, a filmmaker, and a fan of all different types of music, the term beat has a lot of different meanings. As a journalist, a beat is a subject area that you cover. And for the longest time, I was an entertainment reporter, so pop culture and entertainment was my beat. I'm also a filmmaker, and in filmmaking, beat has another connotation. A beat can be a plot point or an emotional note that you want an actor to hit when you're directing a movie. A beat can also be a theme that you want to convey as a screenwriter. And as a longtime music fan, beat, of course, has yet another meaning: rhythm. I'll talk about all these things and more on the Culture Beats podcast. You'll be able to find Culture Beats, of course, on this YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you'll join me. If you like this video, please leave a comment, share it, and subscribe to my channel.